Welcome back. You're watching Cheche. Today's guest is opposition leader and presidential aspirant Musalia Mudavadi. And before the break, we were talking about the election roadmap. You talked about your dissatisfaction with the IBC and, you know, how they're preparing us for next year's election. One of the problems you highlighted was registration, mass registration. So we've done that. We've disposed of that. David has taken your points on board. He'll take them back to the IBC. But what are you doing as a political leader to get your vote out, to get your people registering, to get your people engaged? Because you've told us that there are people who want to join the party, contest the party. But if we learn lessons from 2013, it's that you have to make sure that your people have IDs and voters' cards. Precisely.
I mean, as much as we raise concerns about the challenges that IBC is facing, that does not mean that we should not encourage Kenyans to go out to register and to seek the IDs. So one of the campaigns that we are going to engage in over this period, when they have mass registration, but also beyond, is to continuously tell people that we must prepare to exercise our democratic rights by having the necessary legal documentation. So that is an issue that ANC is going to mount and to campaign on in the next few weeks, just encouraging people that we must, let me put it simply, that it is our topmost priority now that we increase the number of people who will participate in next year's general election.
You are saying you are having a lot of people wanting to be candidates in the party.
Yes.
Will you be taking party hoppers, people who fail in the other parties, and then they come to you and say, oh, now that I've been chased from there, let me join you?
Let me tell you, in politics, movements will always be there. There are definitely some people who will find dissatisfaction in a particular area, and they may come across. We will assess the particular individuals if that
they will be from Jubilee or whatever party. They will have nothing to do with your party because they don't know your party.
They're looking for political home.
I mean, let me put it this way. The whole philosophy about a defection or non-defections is not new to the Kenyan political situation. So I would be hypocritical if I said that we would not listen to somebody who says they want to defect from one party to the other. But nevertheless, the other thing that has come up is that you've noticed that the whole law around political parties, we still haven't got it right anyway, as Kenyan people. Right now, if you see what has been proposed by the legal committee of Chepkonga,
want to strike out the sanctions punishing
yes, and you see here what is happening is that in the desire to create these huge monolithic parties, the legal committee seems to be trying to find a shortcut for parliamentarians or legislators who are in parliament by virtue of a particular ticket, but have either been wooed or have decided on their own volition to go to another party. They want to try and make it easier for them to do that without calling for by-elections.
So what should we do? Because, I mean, we are getting into that season again where, you know, politicians are going to flex the law to suit their circumstances, like happened before 2013 until the last minute, which actually also inconvenienced the IBC in terms of preparations. When will this be? Shouldn't you be focusing on polishing the legislation around the politics?
We missed a very good opportunity, honestly. We missed a very good opportunity when we were working on the constitution. That was perhaps the best time to have given some thought to this particular process. We missed it. So we will have to consult and talk broadly again to see if we can have a meeting of minds as Kenyan people to try and deal with this. But for now, the reality is that in spite of the shortcomings that I've talked about, each political party has got to work and go a notch higher in trying to identify people who believe in their ideology.
There are several comments from our viewers, a lot of questions around Eurobond, and a lot of feedback on your leadership. And so let's begin with Kiprotich in Nandi. Good morning. I have always admired the leadership of Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. He is honest, truthful and humble. While on the other hand, that the two, Cord and Jubilee, are arrogant. I will support your presidency. Go for it. Mudavadi, be confident. Your politics is very mature. Ndegwa in Nyeri. But then, Musalia, oh Musalia, Western alone is not Kenya. Why keep campaigning in your backyard instead of other areas? And Maranya in Meru asks the same question. Why are you not looking for votes in other areas of Kenya if your aim is not to divide the vote in Western Kenya? And then Mumbo in Nairobi, this is very much a diatribe, but Mumbo says, look, you've excelled in demonstrating that you cannot be trusted by anybody. In 2012, I think this should be 2002, you betrayed NARC and ran back to, no, you betrayed NARC and ran back to Kanu, where you were made VP for 2 months. Kanu was humiliated, you faded into oblivion. 5 years later, you were resuscitated by Raila when he recycled and offered you a second chance. 5 years later, you betrayed Raila after being tricked by the Mount Kenya Mafia. You were again left licking your wounds bitterly. Can you really make up your own mind on anything? Your demeanor and indecisiveness is not a cloth cut for commander-in-chief. So there are people who you know, admire your style, and there are others who look to your history and say, we can't trust you.
So let me respond to the logical ones. I'll not deal with the illogical commentary here.
There's no illogical commentary. It's just pointing out your past.
The logical one is that I have been to Kwale Coast in the last few weeks. I have been to Taita. I have been to Uasin Gishu. I have been to Kericho. I have also been to Western. I have traversed, made my presence in Nairobi in the space of the last 3 months. I've been in 10 different counties. So I would like to advise the person who
thinks you're campaigning solely in Western
that if they follow closely, they'll realize that I've been moving in different counties as well. I've been to Nakuru in addition to these others. Now, the point I would say is that as we go forward, I value genuine criticism. I value people pointing out what they ought to point out about me. But I think we have reached a stage where we must also encourage our people to distinguish between propaganda and slander and what is factual. So I would urge one of those people who purports to know me to go back and do a little more homework, and they'll realize that they have a misinterpretation.
What do you think about limitation of campaign spending? And in your case, how much do you want to spend? What's your budget?
I think it's important that we have some caps on the electioneering process. It's important because until we come up with a formula that can provide some guidance, Kenyans will continue perhaps to be influenced by the person with the wallet as opposed to the person who has a genuine and good vision for the country. So limits are important. As to what is the ideal figure, I'd be hesitant to try and imagine what would be the ideal figure. I think this is something that requires broader consultation, and then guidelines are developed in a participatory approach, and then on the basis of that, people can now know the limits of
The reason why corruption is rampant in this country is because of trying to get money for campaigns.
And then trying to pay it back afterwards.
True. That is one factor that fuels corruption. The whole electoral system that we have is one factor that does fuel corruption. So what is important, as I said, is that let it be a participatory process where enough people sit around the table, talk through it, and then they factor that into guidelines that can be used and adopted even in a legislative format for everybody. Remember, there was an attempt to limit it to 40,000 shillings many years ago. But how did the figure 40,000 at that time come up? It must have been an arbitrary statement. It did not hold. But
it's very embarrassing because I understand it.
Because at that time, right now, if you look at inflationary positions and so forth.
That time, the biggest note was 200.
Yeah. So you ask yourself, who then decreed 40,000? As
40,000, then you could buy a car.
Yeah. But I think it was decreed by, was it Moi, or who decreed that the maximum you can spend in an election at that time was 40,000. It didn't even have it did not have the legal backup to be able to sustain that. So clearly, it is a process that may have to be determined somewhat scientifically, so to speak, but with broad participation.
Again, from our viewers, I have never supported Musalia, but the honesty and objectivity of his arguments have made me like him. This man is what Kenya is missing. That comes from Nambiro. But then, people who agree with Nambiro go further to say that we like you, we want you in the public space, but you won't make it as president. And so would you consider a senatorial run or a gubernatorial run?
No. I'm focused on the presidential race, and I'll have to work on it, and that is where my target is. And I've made it public that I do not seek to be a governor anywhere. I do not seek to be a senator anywhere. I do not seek to be a member of parliament anywhere. So I'm seeking the presidency.
So if you are not running for president, you will not run for any other office. And the possibility is that, of course, politics is about calculation and strategy. If you realize that maybe along the way that 2017 is not good, looking in the horizon,
if I'm not contesting for presidency, I will not contest for any other seat
in this coming election.
This is the plain truth, or any.
Okay.
Yes, I'm as candid as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's someone who's very persistent here, asking questions around the Sustainable Development Goals and how they're reflected in your manifesto. Could you please respond to him?
All I would say is that we are in the process of working on our manifesto. So if you can bear with us, it is something that I would want to take him on when we unveil the manifesto.
Okay. Before we go, and I'll come to the panelists, I think we've confused people, David. So let's just be very clear that you're a political analyst, you're a journalist, but you're also doing some work for the IBC. Let's just clarify that.
Okay, the truth is, I'm a communications and media consultant, and right now I've been engaged as a communications advisor to IBC as a consultant. That is the actual position. And it is in that respect that I'm talking about IBC with authority, because I am able to share the information they have, and I'm helping them to get out to disabuse the country of some of these notions that they're this and that, or to help them to communicate their messages better.
Thank you. So as we wind up now, we've talked quite a bit, both about our guests' aspirations, but also about the environment in the country. And the biggest bugbear at the moment is corruption. Several of our viewers support Mr. Mudavadi. They like what they've seen and they believe that they've been won over. But others think that there's indecision. Others believe that he would need to be a more decisive leader. So if we were talking about corruption, given that it's been in the papers all week, what would you expect from a President Mudavadi in curtailing corruption? in, you know, getting Kenya off? I think we're what number 2 now after Russia. We're competing with Nigeria. How would you expect the Mudavadi administration to deal with corruption?
You know, I mean, we all believe in the rule of law, and I think that is as it should be. But I must say that there is great frustration in this country with the rule of law in due process, because it's still not working. And so sometimes you're tempted to think that maybe we need a Magufuli approach, where you're going to walk into offices and you're going to fire people
on the spot,
and you're going to, you know, employ more sophisticated sting operations rather than these formal structures that we keep. I always ask myself, you know, it's very easy to wipe out, for example, traffic corruption among police, traffic police. You don't have to have uniformed people, and these raids that happen that, you know, are sporadic. You can actually determine and wipe out corruption on the roads. You can determine to wipe out corruption in this country by not following some, you know, these processes. Some of them really are just cover-ups, because the actual truth is known. And I'll ask myself whether, you know, in his position as president, for example, doesn't the president get to know certain facts of transactions which have happened either from intelligence or informal sources? Can't he take action without having to wait for due process, even when the facts may be spoiled by destroyed evidence and things like that? Sometimes you teach a lesson by using unorthodox means. That's how this country needs to be sorted out.
Mutegi?
I'm not sure about that, but Mheshimiwa here has been there before. He dealt with the Golden Bag and he has told us how he did it. And he has told us what should be done about the current problem of Europe. So I will give him the benefit of doubt. When he was in the minister, there was not, he didn't end corruption because it cannot be ended by one person. It's the whole system. But if I were him, I would not do a Magufuli thing, which is a solo thing. You just start from the top, being an example. Just it has happened in maybe, like he says, be kind of a dictator when it comes to corruption. What has happened in Rwanda? Because Rwanda is a clean place. There's not that nonsense. There is no insecurity. That leadership by example. But Magufuli going to sweep the way the other places are left. It's not the proper thing. But show an example, be it wholesome.
Sir, your comments, because you've got 2 sets of ideas. I wonder why you can't combine them, but there's a Magufuli approach. What would Magufuli do? Because you said that you're not going to consult with Buhari, the president of Nigeria, Buhari. So would you be looking to Tanzania as an example, as you wonder?
Let me put it this way. This is a major challenge, and as much as we may want to wish something away, the reality is that justice must always prevail. And the worst thing is to try and develop a culture where we do not respect the rule of law and procedure. That is very dangerous. I mean, let me throw a pigeon among the cats. Suppose you said
the cat among the pigeons.
Cat among the pigeons. Let's take this famous story that police have been given an order to shoot the kid. Now,
but that is an extreme.
Precisely, precisely. That's the point I'm trying to put across.
Yeah.
That this thing, as much as we are irritated by it, we must deal with it in a logical and legal process. We must not be tempted to try and deal with corruption through means that can eventually give license for people to do unnecessary harm to other Kenyans. But corruption must be fought, and to me I say we must work on the judicial system. They must be supported to continuously reform. We must continue to invest in the proper training and quality of all the investigative agencies, and we must, where there's a weakness, we must provide the legal framework to support them where we have noticed that there are shortcomings. That is the way we will deal with the corruption. But let me put it this way. If they are trained to do better sting operations, more sophisticated sting operations, yes, that would be one way of doing it. But let us not go the shoot to kill.
But what about government? Would you? Because what is happening here now is that people in government are the ones in the corruption. It is not. It's public. The rich people in this country are public servants. Even if you saw that story which was in the newspaper.
Hence the lifestyle audits.
Yeah. If you remember the people who are quarreling about inheritance, all those fellows who are named there, except maybe but all of them are civil servants, public servants. If you are, are you going to have government people who are corrupt?
You see the corruption is a very broad issue. And you bring in an interesting, okay, we've talked about lifestyle audits. We talk about KRA. And it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
All right? Because there are always people in the private sector who are
enticing
these fellows. Yeah. You see, we have confined our attack in this country about corruption purely within the public sector. So when I say we need further help in legal framework, is to also now look at how do you deal with corruption in the private sector.
But the private sector has come up with their own bill regulating them.
Has it passed through Parliament?
It hasn't passed through Parliament.
So it is still a challenge.
But it speaks to what you were saying about the rule of law. We have to end. We can carry on this conversation.
The question is not, I think Mheshimiwa there cited an extreme case. I mean, you're talking about shoot to kill people and things like that. But corruption is never a visible thing, you know. And everybody who has committed corruption will be in the business of covering it up. So the trails are always going to get lost. As executive, you must have systems by which people are relieved of duties because you have substantive information. I mean, when the president declined to reinstate the cabinet secretaries who left, it was not because there was anything in the courts that found them guilty, but he may have had information that says, okay, there's no evidence, but there are certain things that have been done which you're culpable for. And that's what we're looking at. A strong hand in administration that's not guided by the law all the time, whereas the law we must uphold, the rule of law.
Yes, but I also agree with you that if you're a president, you can simply call somebody and tell him, look, the reports I'm getting around you are not good. Yes. And I have lost confidence in you.
Yes. Yes, yes.
It's
categorical leadership.
That can be very categorical.
Yes.
And some of those need not even be publicized. These are issues that you can just call, and perhaps the next thing you would see is somebody resigning there and another one resigning there and another one, and that is
now that's the kind of leadership.
And that's what we would see from the president.
Oh yes, and that is what is not here.
Because let me tell you, let me tell you, if you are the president of the republic and you call somebody, irrespective of what position, even if that person is sitting in a constitutional office, but you tell him, look, I wanted to have a conversation with you because I have serious doubts or have reason to have serious doubts, and therefore my confidence in you is diminished. A decent person would immediately realize that if I'm working and the president of the day has expressed directly to me that he has no confidence in me, then I have no business being there.
Okay. It's always a pleasure to have you on this show, so we thank you for your time here on Cheche this morning. Today's guest was the founder of the Amani National Congress Party, Musalia Mudavadi. He'll be asking you, I think, later on as the year goes, for your vote for him next year. And our thanks also to our panelists, Mutegi Njau and David Makali. We thank you for watching and engaging with us here on Cheche. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.